Touchdown, San Francisco. Brock Purdy. Perfect pass.
That's a dot. That's a dot. That's a dot. Gotta do it. Hey, what a hat set, man. A little hat and t-shirt, mom. Y'all look real good right now. Hey, I'm telling you.
You're down to the right place.
Super Bowl bird hangs in the balance. Montana rolling out the right, looking towards the end zone, throwing under pressure, throws it fast. Caught by Clark. Clark got a touchdown. Right back after.
Your host, Ryan Hensley.
What's going on, everybody? I'm here with Rohan. What's up, Ro? How you doing, buddy?
Doing good this morning. How you doing, my man?
Good, man. It's Thursday. We're almost to Friday and almost to the weekend, even though, I kind of work 7 days a week, but I still enjoy the weekend. Sunday's my favorite day. What's your favorite day of the week, Rohan?
I got to go with probably, honestly, Sunday as well. You know, you have Sunday football. You wake up, it's pretty much there. And you get to settle with it the whole day, Saturday or Sunday, definitely.
Yeah, I love Sunday. I get to prepare for the week. We get to watch football. Whole family's home. So usually Sunday's my favorite day. We got Rohan on for the first 30 minutes, which is fantastic. We're going to catch up on a lot of things. We got some breaking news. We got some incorrect reporting to correct. We're going to talk Ravens, 49ers, Brock Purdy, and Lamar Jackson. And then at the 9:30 mark, Al Seiko, who's never been on the show yet, is coming on with Brian Rennick. Those two guys do a show together. So looking forward to having those guys on. So we got a great show planned for you guys today. Real quick, hit that like button if you haven't yet. If you haven't subscribed, please do that for myself, and not only myself, but Rohan as well. Details in the description for his channel. Also, real quick, the Ryan G. Hensley Show is sponsored by Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code Hensley for $100 initial deposit match. If you want to get your credit fixed, go to Blue Water Credit. Details in the description how you can do that. Also, Hensley Real Estate and Mortgage and Solar. Those are my businesses. Hit me up if you want to buy, sell a house, refinance, finance a house in California. I would love to help you. Been doing it since 2009. I will do a great job for you. Again, hit that like button, subscribe. Shout out to everybody in the comments. A lot of great people here. I see already Mr. Blue Magic, Matt McKinn, Nick Nice, as always. If I'm missing you, I apologize. I'm just trying to get through it. I think I see Tommy Huxley, who's always coming at my mustache, and he's talking about telling Rohan to comb his hair this morning. He's talking about my mustache. He says I have a cop's mustache. Tommy is always going hard in the paint, and kind of appreciate it. Matt, $5 super chat from the get-go. Appreciate you, man. We didn't get a chance to get into the show yet, and you already hit me with super chats, man. I appreciate it. He says, so can I be a beat writer for The Athletic by copying and pasting from Reddit, asking for a friend? Rohan, are you familiar with what he's talking about?
I unfortunately am, and yeah, I saw that yesterday. Yeah.
So let's clarify some false reporting that's been reported. Lamar Jackson never ran the 10-second split in the combine. He hasn't been tested on that. It was reported by a 49ers beat writer that Brock Purdy had essentially the same split time, 10-yard split time as Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson's never been recorded in the 10-yard split. That was false reporting. Apparently, his source was somebody on Reddit. So those have been removed. That's not true. So if you hear it moving forward, you can shut it down. Now, not to be said that Brock Purdy isn't quick in the pocket. He does have that short area quickness. He did post a good 10-yard split time. But we have to at least test Lamar Jackson before we say it's the same. Yeah. Who do you think's faster, Lamar Jackson or Brock Purdy, Rohan?
I don't even think it's a debate. And the issue when you specifically quote something like a 10-yard split, even when you quote a 40-yard dash, right? The difference in a 10-yard split, if you are at 1.53 or 1.52 seconds versus 1.55 seconds, there is a disparity. Quite a wide disparity. Whereas if you're, running the 40-yard dash and maybe you're at 4, for example, if you're a 4.4 guy or a 4.3 guy and another guy's a 4.46 or 4.5 guy, there's the disparity there. And again, we don't like to just say, throw this stat number out there, throw this speed number out there, and that's exactly how they run on film. No. But when you look on film, there's a clear difference with the way Lamar Jackson operates and the way Brock Purdy operates. One is visibly fast. You can see how he utilizes his athleticism, and you can see why he chooses to be a dual threat quarterback and takes off in the running game. There's designed runs scheduled for him. The other is deceptively fast. And I don't know if it's deceptive anymore because we've seen Brock Purdy be able to escape certain things, but his athleticism is used in a much different way. It's not used in designed runs and different packages like that. Instead, it's used to extend plays. You see how his pocket awareness is improved because of his, his sneaky athleticism. You see his ability to scramble and take off when needed, but I think there's a wide disparity there. And even if you want to bring up statistics such as short area quickness, which I think is a positive, I do think it's a positive for Brock Purdy. It's been well reported. I think that, you've got to add context to it if you're going to just say one's got the same athleticism as the other, and you see the wide disparity that's shown on film.
Yeah, there's also a big difference between short area quickness and top speed. Lamar Jackson is a freak when it comes to running the ball. So comparing him is kind of disingenuous, and the statistics are reported by a 49ers beat writer, I believe it was yesterday, or just just completely false, just fake statistics being reported. So I feel like it's my duty to let you guys know the truth, and so that's the truth. Matt McKeon says, Ron, at least your dink dunk take was yours. It was mine, man. And, I'm proud of it. You know what? My job is a content creator, right? And I created a lot of content for a lot of content creators during that 2-month off season. And we got the conversation going. So to all the content creators who ran videos about it for weeks and weeks, and some who still post about it, you're welcome. All right, Rohan, let's do this, brother. Breaking news here. 49ers signed defensive tackle Taylor Stallworth. I'm not sure if you were aware of that. It came out this morning, apparently. Are you familiar with Taylor Stallworth at all?
If I was going to be honest, before this morning, I didn't know who he was. Before this morning, no idea. Did a little bit of, research and all that. And this one's, it's interesting. The 49ers said that they weren't ruling anything out earlier this week. People talked about potentially signing Debunking Suh. That was something that they talked about last year. But instead, it's Taylor Stallworth, a guy to the practice squad, likely a short game fit or a short-term fix. While Ark Armstead, Javon Hargrave are probably out. At defensive tackle, you're going to likely see him get called up.
So not a game changer is what you're saying necessarily.
If his career has shown, not yet. We'll see what Kosterich does with him, but yeah, nothing like overly exaggerating, and you don't really see too many crazy moves at this portion of the season.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of just checked his stats again. I didn't know much about him. He has 58 games, total 4.5 sacks in those 58 games, 24 solo tackles. So nothing right here is jumping out. Of course, I don't know how many of those games that he played in. What did he play the entire game or whatnot? But we'll see. Obviously, the 49ers have a need for it with the injury to Eric Armstead, to Javon Hargrave. Also, Kalia Davis was just put on IR for an ankle. So they're shorthanded at the defensive tackle spot, and I guess this Taylor Stallworth cat is supposed to be at least a temporary solution. He has a good name. There's a lot of good football players named Stallworth. I know that much. So yeah, the 49ers just signed him this morning, which is good to hear. At least they're approaching it. I would kind of like them to sign Suh, man, but I don't know. What's your take? Why didn't they sign Suh or go after a player like that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of factors. One, it's on the player. Player will definitely want to find the best spot for him, and maybe it is with San Francisco. But in Debunking Suh, this is the time of year where he'll likely have some more suitors, and he's just willing to relax, wait, see who gives him the best offer, understanding that he'll probably have a couple of guys or a couple of teams wanting to make that stretch run with him. So that could be the case. And, it's a matter of fact of, do you want to find a roster spot for him, because you have a lot of players on your defense, and especially on the defensive line taking up roster spots. Do you want to potentially get another one for him? And also potentially this move indicates it might not be as long-term of a need that the 49ers have. Suh likely requires if you're signing Suh at this point, it likely means that one of your guys might not look as good as you anticipated. You might need him for a longer period of time rather than just maybe the next 1 to 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the name of this show, brother, is Brock Purdy versus Lamar Jackson MVP fight, at least here on my channel. So I wanted to get your take on this MVP battle. Obviously, when I look at Brock Purdy's numbers from a passing standpoint, they're superior to Lamar Jackson's. One thing they do have in common is they are both tied with, I believe, Derek Carr and somebody else who is slipping my mind with the fewest interceptions. So Brock Purdy, I think it's Dak Prescott actually. Yeah, Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, Lamar Jackson, Derek Carr, all tied with 7 interceptions, which is the fewest for people who have played 14 games. So quarterbacks that have started and finished 14 games, there's 4 of them that only have 7 interceptions. Nobody has less. That's Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, Derek Carr, and Lamar Jackson. So when you look at Brock Purdy and look at Lamar Jackson, they are different, very different quarterbacks, not only in your 10-yard split time or in your speed. Lamar Jackson is also leading the Ravens in rushing. He's carrying the load from a running standpoint for the Baltimore Ravens. And he's also their quarterback. And then you look at Brock Purdy's number, who is just dominating from a passing standpoint. They're both in the top 4, I believe, right now, top 5 for MVP odds. How do you see this battle heating up, and how is this game going to affect the MVP race?
Yeah, I think that when you look at it right now, the MVP race is slowly taking shape with certain names kind of falling out, certain names kind of coming together. A couple of weeks ago, a lot of people like Jalen Hurts. I personally was not a big fan of the Hurts for MVP train. I didn't think that his play indicated MVP levels this year. He's kind of fallen out, probably out of the top 5 for now. Dak Prescott was a guy who was firmly in the MVP race, did not have a good week last week. Now you turn to guys like Christian McCaffrey, Brock Purdy, Tyreek Hill, Lamar Jackson, the guys who who are on the winning teams and who have made a unique impact this season. And the way that you look at Lamar Jackson, I think, is going to be very intriguing for MVP voters this year, because Lamar Jackson is not your ideal quarterback. He is not, the guy who's going to throw all the time. He's a guy who's a dual threat guy and a guy who Baltimore utilizes very, very effectively in that role. You just mentioned he leads Baltimore in rushing. Well, he is the facilitator not only of a very potent passing attack, but of the league's #1 rushing attack this year. And when you talk about the multifaceted effort that Lamar Jackson has put together, that's the reason why Baltimore has been where Baltimore is right now. And he's an efficient passer, completes nearly 66% of his passes. The Baltimore Ravens, they've won 11 games. He's a guy who has been healthy this year, and he's a guy who has been efficient on the ground and in the air. You talk about him, he's accounted for around 3,800 yards. And so I think that this is a very, very different battle between 2 different quarterbacks, 2 different skill sets, of course, and guys who have had different accolades this year. Purdy obviously leading the league or nearly leading the league as well in several different categories in the passing range. Lamar Jackson, he's not necessarily up there in terms of a lot of those passing categories, but when you consider his overall kind of resume, it's hard to fault him and hard to say that he's not in the MVP race as well.
Yeah, and I think this game means a lot, right? These 2 quarterbacks here lead the 2 best teams in the NFL right now, at least from a record standpoint. And I honestly think they are both the 2 best teams, not only by record, but they really are. Baltimore is a really good team. They actually are, like you said, they're #1 in rushing, whereas the 49ers are 18th in stopping the run. So it feels like the Ravens are built to beat the 49ers. Their strengths are the 49ers' weakness. I'm not saying that they're going to, but their strengths are the 49ers' weaknesses, right? They have that great run game, whereas the 49ers are 18th in stopping the run. So that works against the 49ers. And Niners aren't really used to playing teams with these elite running games. And Lamar Jackson is a big part of that. Now, Mitchell for the Ravens is injured, so that might change things for the Ravens a little bit. But again, Lamar Jackson's your #1 runner on this team. Do you think Mitchell's absence is going to slow down the run for the Ravens at all?
I do. I think that it's an important absence, because when you talk about how explosive a guy like Keaton Mitchell has been this season, I think that when you lose a guy like him, it's tough. And I don't know if they have, the type of replacement to fulfill what he provides specifically. I mean, it's been a smaller sample size because he really broke out towards the second half of the year. But Mitchell has rushed for 8.5 yards per carry. I mean, when you talk about rushing for 8.5 yards per carry, that's insane. And it's not like he just did this in one game. Mitchell I think he's played in around 6 or 7 games this year, played extensively in 6 or 7 games, gotten at least 7, 8 carries in these 6 or 7 games, and he's gotten 8 yards per carry because of that electrifying speed and because of the way the Baltimore Ravens utilize their run game and their running backs. Now behind him, you've got Gus Edwards, who's been the bell cow guy. Obviously, no J.K. Dobbins, but behind him, I don't know if you have that true speed threat. And Gus Edwards is a guy who is more of a grinder. I mean, he's averaged 4.1 yards per carry this year, a ton of touchdowns. I believe he's at 11 or 12 this year, which is very high in the running back rankings. And so he's a different type of back. So I think, you're going to have to find different ways if you're Baltimore to get those explosive plays to generate a bit of a balance in the run game.
All right, and we're talking MVPs today. Matt brings this up. Good. Thank you for the super chat, buddy. He says Tyreek Hill out and Miami didn't miss a beat. Well, I think they did miss a beat when he was first injured in that game, wasn't he? It was the second game they came back and they looked like they were fine. Maybe it was a game plan thing. They probably had a lot of things planned for Tyreek Hill. When he went down, they struggled. But the next game, they game planned without him and seemed to do okay. So your MVP leaders right now are basically Brock Purdy, CMC, Lamar Jackson, Tua, and Dak Prescott. Those are the guys that you hear about. How do you think this works out on the MVP race with 3 games left?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think I kept it a secret. Dak Prescott was pretty high on my list, but I said the main stretch for Dak Prescott in his MVP race was going to be the 3-game tough stretch that Dallas has, where they face off against Buffalo, they faced off against Philly, and then they faced off against the Detroit Lions this next weekend. 4 games, because they face off against Miami and then the Detroit Lions the following weekend. Those are some pretty good teams, playoff contending teams. You want to see how he plays. The first test last weekend, Buffalo stifled the Dallas offense. They absolutely, locked down the Dallas offense. And so I think that hurts his case. And right now, I think you'd be tough to say that Brock Purdy isn't the odds-on favorite. I mean, a lot of sports books, say that, but when you look at it, I think it's tough to say Brock Purdy isn't. And maybe the only guy right now, not the only guy, but the primary guy that's opposing or that could really hurt his case is his own teammate, Christian McCaffrey, because the fact that you have 2 guys who might be worthy of the MVP award on the same team, usually, that might diminish the most valuable kind of value overall and potentially put it in the hands of somebody else. But right now, I would have to say Brock Purdy is my MVP.
Yeah, I think right now, if he continues to play the way he's playing, I think he wins the MVP. I think he would probably deserve it based on his numbers and the way he's playing. And if this continues at this trajectory, I think Brock Purdy's your MVP. How do you approach this if you're Kyle Shanahan so they need to win 2 out of the final 3 games, it sounds like, to secure the 1 seed and home in the playoffs, right? So they play the Ravens this week. They got some guys that might be able to play, but are kind of on that borderline, like a Javon Hargrave, for example. Do you go all in on this Ravens game and try to win it, which is what I think you need to do? I think you need to win these next 2 games. I don't think you wait until you play the Rams to go all in. I think that would be a mistake. My good friend Jesse disagrees. I think he thinks this is when you rest the players and you try to finish strong. So the 49ers have the Ravens, the Commanders, and then the Rams, who are actually playing really good right now. In my opinion, you go all out in this game to try to win this game, and then you beat the Commanders. And then in Week 18, you're resting. How do you think they should approach this, or does it matter? And how does that affect the MVP race?
Yeah, I do think I'm kind of torn on what exactly I want to do, because I'm not going to lie. My initial thought was, you have 3 games. You only need to win 2. I don't mind, or at least to me, there's more comfort in if your players don't have to go this week, you don't have to force it. Or if your players can't go this week, you don't have to force it. Because to me, I think the number one thing right now for the 49ers is playoff health. I think that they trust themselves. And so if Ark Armstead, Javon Hargrave, or whoever it may be is not ready to go in week 16, I don't know if you should force the gun, try and get everybody ready to play, and then potentially risk future injury to where you might not be able to have them for the playoffs because you do have the luxury of losing one game. And this is not at all how Kyle Shanahan's going to view it, because in the NFL, you're trying to win every single game. But you know those two games at the back end of your schedule are winnable. Again, I think that there are, there's always the anomaly in football, and you don't want to potentially lose an opportunity right in front of you. But I think that you have the luxury potentially of treating this game as a not must-win game, in the fact that you don't have to play players who aren't 100% because you have two other games to win, and because you control your own destiny even with a loss. That's the way that I look at it. But I think if you have the chance to win this game, I think you got to take it, right? Because like you said, the best possible scenario for the 49ers right now is you win the next two games and you can do whatever you want in week 18, which might mean maybe playing the starters for a series or two, getting them, knocking off just a little bit of rust, and then allowing the backups to fully play in that game and having your guys rested not only for 1 week, but 2 weeks with the first round bye.
I think for me, I'm going to go as hard as I can against these Ravens for multiple reasons. One, it could possibly be a Super Bowl preview. It's the battle of the best two teams in the NFL from a record standpoint. I think 49ers can make a really big statement right here. And three, I just think assuming that you're going to go in and beat the Commanders and Rams could be come back to bite you. I think it's a mistake to assume that that's going to happen. The Rams played really well. They took this Ravens team into overtime. The Rams know these 49ers. It's a interdivision matchup. So the Rams are playing good lately. They're scoring in the 30s, like the last 4 or 5 games, something like that. They're putting up points. They're not to be taken lightly. Of course, I think the 49ers should be able to beat them, but I don't think it's something you want to just count on. Like, I don't think you want to approach this Ravens game like, hey, if we got to rest guys, that's fine because we're going to beat the Commanders and the Rams. I think that's a mistake from the approach. Now, somebody brought up in here the Eagles could lose 2 out of 3. I don't know, man. The Eagles have an easy schedule. I believe they play.
I think Giants, they went out.
Yeah, they play the Giants
twice and the Cardinals.
The Cardinals. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much as easy as it gets in this league from a schedule standpoint. Even though they're collapsing right now, that's a schedule they should be able to win. Whereas the Cowboys play the Lions, the Dolphins, and who do they play? They play somebody else besides that. That's an easy one, but those 2 games are tough. So I think the Cowboys can honestly be fighting for a wild card spot when the next 3 games are over, whereas the Eagles could probably secure their what is it, NFC North? What is it, NFC East, right? Yeah, NFC East. They could secure that. So the 49ers, to me, have to win at least 2 out of the next 3 games, and you take it 1 game at a time, and you go after as hard as you can at these Ravens, and you try to win this game. It's a winnable game for the 49ers, but they're going to be tough. They're going to be tough. Let's talk about this game, Rohan. How do you see this game going versus the Ravens, the 49ers and Ravens? Oh, I'm just noticing Rohan is frozen like me in this office right now. So I'm assuming Rohan will click off and come back in. I'll put myself on a big screen here, full picture, and we'll get back to Rohan in just a second. But what I was talking about in regard to the damn, my headphones, everything's falling apart right now. My headphones came out. Rohan's frozen. In regards to the Ravens being built to beat the 49ers, here's my take and the reason why I say that. They have a very good run game. 49ers are 18th in stopping and run. We know that one. I talked about that one already. The Ravens defense is really good, particularly in the spots where the 49ers lose the attack offensively. They have a really good back end safety, and they are really good in the middle, which is 49ers like to attack. Now, they've gotten a lot more diverse now because they have Brock Purdy versus when they had Jimmy. But still, it seems like they're built to beat the 49ers the way their roster is constructed, the way they play football. Also, I don't know, take this for what it's worth. Lamar Jackson is 19-1 against NFC opponents. So he is 19-1 against NFC opponents, which is crazy. That's a wild statistic. 19-1 is a very high win percentage. That's higher than Russell Wilson's winning percentage against the 49ers. So that's something to keep in mind. I honestly don't understand why he's so successful against NFC opponents. Doesn't really make sense to me. I mean, I talked to Jesse a little bit. Jesse said he thinks it's because NFC opponents don't prepare to play these guys as often as other teams, but I just don't get it. Doesn't make a lot of sense. Another one that makes no sense, and it probably means nothing, is the last 7 underdogs on Monday Night Football have went on to win. So the last 7 underdogs have went on to win, which is crazy, and it probably means nothing. It's probably just coincidence, but I do find that extremely interesting. That the last 7 underdogs going into a Monday Night Football game went on to win. This week coming up, the Ravens are considered to be the underdog. Whether they should or not, I'm not sure. This is a tough game for me. I think obviously I'm going to go Niners, probably mostly just because it's a home game. I think if they're on the road against the Ravens, it might be a different game. I feel like the Ravens are going to come out. I think the one advantage the 49ers have that we didn't expect coming into this was that Mitchell is hurt. I think that's huge. Mitchell is a burner, and he's the home run hitter, and him being hurt might help the 49ers slow down the run game, who gave up 200-plus yards rushing against the Cardinals last week. So that's my biggest concern for this game coming up. We'll see what happens. But it looks like maybe Roe's internet just fell completely apart. I do have Brian backstage. Let me go ahead and pop Brian on, and we'll talk to Brian while Al's coming in. What's up, B?
Hey, Ryan. How's it going, man?
Good, man. Good to see you, buddy.
You as well.
Rohan just disappeared on us, man. He was
no.
Yeah, I don't know. I think his internet
That's the University of Wisconsin Wi-Fi is not reliable.
yeah, exactly, man. First of all, thanks for coming, man. You and Al do a show together, right?
We do, yeah.
Yeah, when do you guys do that show, by the way?
Yeah, so we do the 49ers Web Zone No Huddle podcast. It's the official podcast of the 49ers Web Zone. I am also the editor over there. We are a part of the Odyssey family, and then we release 2 shows a week. We're actually recording our second show this week later today. The first half, we've got Jason Lockenfora coming on to talk Ravens as a Odyssey Ravens insider. And then we'll preview the game a little bit. And then, I imagine we will not, I don't know what next week is going to look like, especially with the game being on Christmas, but, we'll get 2 episodes a week is what our current schedule.
Cool. I want to talk to you more about that when Al comes on here in just a couple minutes.
Sure.
I've never had Al on the show, so it's good to have both you guys at the same time, which is good. Yeah, I've been trying to connect with him for a minute. We have Keith Murphy with the super chat real quick. Says they polled NFL GMs and lack of familiar with Lamar and first time playing him. You don't understand the speed. Rams almost beat them. Yeah, and you know what? This could be a blessing in disguise having him on the schedule. If they end up meeting again in the Super Bowl, having like one game against them could really benefit them. But I guess it could also benefit the Ravens in that regard. I was sharing that statistic. I'm sure you heard it. The Lamar Jackson's 19-1 against NFC opponents.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is, man?
Honestly, I think a lot of that is what you see there, right? There really isn't anybody in the NFC that is similar to Lamar. There isn't anyone in the NFL that's similar to Lamar in terms of the challenges that he poses. But here's the thing, this 49er squad faced him in 2019, so they're not unfamiliar with him. Steve Wilkes is unfamiliar with him, but the defense itself is not. And I believe there's 5 starters on defense that are still starting against that Raven squad in 2019. So it's not to me, this isn't a situation where it's like a first time for the 49ers. It's they faced him before, and I was very thrilled with Wilkes's game plan against Jalen Hurts to keep him in the pocket. Not that Jalen Hurts is again the athlete that Lamar is, but I do think that they have I think they'll go in with a good plan, and Lamar will get his, but it'll be interesting to see if they can just limit the scoring.
Yeah, man. Rohan's back real quick. We got Al backstage, but Rohan's back in action from Wisconsin. What's up, man? Internet went out on you, brother?
As always, that's what happens when you live in a college apartment, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to come back real quick, say tune out before Al comes in. Brian, good to see you.
You as well, boy wonder.
Yeah, excited for this, Monday night game. 49ers Ravens, probably a battle of the MVP potentially. We'll see who wins. Ryan, though, appreciate your time, man.
Yeah, hey, buddy. Make sure you guys all subscribe to Rohan. Follow him on Twitter. He writes amazing articles. Not to stir up any rivalries here, but Brian Rennick should definitely try to get Rohan in the building. He's really good at it.
We had Rohan. He left.
Oh shoot! I brought up my fault.
He went off to greener pastures.
So. Damn. My bad. All right. Make sure you guys all subscribe to Rohan. Details in the description how you can do that, and also follow him on Twitter. Rohan, man, you're the guy, buddy. I appreciate you.
Hey, appreciate you, Brian.
Hey, good to see you, Rohan. Have a good one, bud.
Thank you.
Thanks, bud. All right, let me welcome to the show, Al. Let me Seiko, or how do I pronounce it correctly?
Sacco, like sack the quarterback.
That's right. I'll never forget it again, man.
Easy to remember. Italian last name.
Thanks for coming on, man. We've been trying to do this for at least a month or so, man. I should have probably reached out a long time ago, but I'm thrilled to have you on here.
Yeah, I'm glad we could figure it out, man. I'm sitting backstage listening to Brian as if I don't have to listen to him enough. So I got to listen to him a little bit more, I guess, right now, but it's all right. No, I appreciate it, Ryan. Yeah, we've been trying to get this going for a little bit, just with our schedules. We're crazy, but I'm glad to be on, man. You're doing a great job, and I'm pumped to be on here.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, I've had Brian on probably, this is like, well, I don't know, 5th, 6th time for Brian. And so I've never been able to get Al on. And then I'm like, well, hey, why don't I try to get both at the same time and give that to the people? So I'm thrilled that you guys are both here.
You lucked out. Al's an East Coast guy, and he's at home this week.
Vacation.
So yeah.
Oh, nice, man. Nice. I wanted to just kind of, I understand what Brian, I've gotten familiar with Brian, but Al, how did you get into this 49er stuff, man? When did it start? How did it begin? How did you get into it?
It's been a long time. Too long now. I think it was like 2013, 2012 maybe. And I just kind of submitted an article to the Web Zone thinking like whatever. Started writing for them. And it kind of, luckily thanks to the fans, it kind of took off for me. I've written for a lot of different Niners stuff, and I got a CanVR in 2019, and I was with them. I wrote for them and their website that season. We started the podcast in 2017, and again, thinking like, whatever, nobody's going to listen to this. And we were lucky enough to, again, it's done really well. And then we signed with Odyssey. What was it, Brian? Last August, September, whatever it was. Yeah. And we've been with them for like a year and a half. So it's been good, man. We're really lucky. Like we were just talking, like we just had Peter King on. We're pitching ourselves. You know what I mean? Like it's just great to be able to do that. I've been lucky enough to be able to cover some games, interview players and things like that. So. And that's just because the fans have supported me for so long. I've been able to kind of stick around and keep doing this. So just, I really appreciate the Niners fans.
That's good, man. Well, you guys are a great two-headed monster over there with what you're doing. Make sure one more time for everybody so they can subscribe after the show. Give us the name of the channel one more time.
So 49ers Web Zone No Huddle Podcast.
Okay. If you guys are not subscribed, make sure you do that. Go ahead. Yeah,
we're strictly right now. Yeah, go to podcasts wherever you get your podcasts, because we mostly do podcasts. Things will end up on our YouTube afterwards, but we're a download podcast driven show. So
cool, man. Cool. Well, I wanted to get your take. And real quick, Tommy, I'm going to save your great question. I'm going to get to it here in just a second, but I wanted to stay on the topic we were discussing prior to you joining us, Al, and also get Brian's take on the MVP stuff. But right now, Brock Purdy and Lamar Jackson are both in the top 5. I think Brock's leading it. I think Lamar's 5th right now, I think, in the MVP race, if I'm correct on the NFL odds. How do you see these two guys as far as how they're carrying their quarterback and their worthiness of that MVP award?
Well, I think Brock gets knocked because he's got a great team around him, and that's not really fair. When you look at the 49ers, does McCaffrey help Brock Purdy? Sure. Does Trent Williams help Christian McCaffrey? Yeah, these guys all help each other. And when you look at other quarterbacks who have had elite seasons, historical seasons, and that's what Brock is having. Make no mistake about that. He's having a historical season. They have a great supporting cast too. Peyton Manning had Wayne and Harrison and James and Brandon Stokely, and they might have had Dallas Clark then too. Kurt Warner had Torrey Holt and Isaac Bruce and Marshall Faulk. These guys have great players. Joe Montana had Jerry Rice and John Taylor. You can go on and on and on. But what Brock is doing right now, he's not throwing for 240 in a score. He's putting up generational numbers. And if you guys look at it, so he leads the league in TD passes, 29, right? His TD percentage is 7.6. Second is 5.9. Yards per attempt, and he leads in all these categories. Yards per attempt is 9.9. Second is 8.6. Average yards per attempt, 10.6. Second is 8.7. Rating, 119. Second is 106. Right now, he has the fourth highest rating of all time if the season ended today. QBR, 76. Second is 72.7. So he's second in the league in passing yards despite being 21st in attempts. He's doing historic things. You look at every week. Completion percentage, 7 games in a row, second most all time. These are all-time things that he's doing. So to look at him and discredit any of it because he's got a great supporting cast, again, he's not limping towards things. Jimmy Garoppolo is a perfect example of a quarterback winning games because of his supporting cast. Perfect example if you're looking to go back to it. How many games did we see the Niners win? 23-16, and it's late in the fourth quarter, and you're like, how the hell are they not up by 3 scores? They're dominating this game because they don't have the quarterback that can transcend them. And I'm going to give you 2 examples of where Purdy transcends it. I was just doing a Ravens show, and he mentioned, there was the wide open throw to Debo and the wide open throw to McCaffrey this last game. Let me tell you guys, break that down a little bit. The wide open throw to McCaffrey was an off-schedule play where he rolls to his left and McCaffrey is wide open. In previous years, that's a sack. Brock got out of that and was able to make a play. The throw to Debo against the Seahawks, Jamal Adams is flat-footed. Purdy sees that. Debo didn't think he was getting the ball. Sees Williams is flat-footed, says, I can hit that throw, throws the bomb for the touchdown. So those plays, you may just see, look, the guy's wide open. If you're really looking at it, that's Purdy making those plays. That's Purdy taking the shots downfield that weren't happening here before, and that's why the offense is able to take the next step.
Yeah, man, it's been crazy to watch, and it's why I'm so confident in the 49ers. I didn't see it coming. Like, I know, a lot of people are, saying they saw it coming, and that's fine. I don't think anyone did. And I think if they said that last year, I think that it's luck that it turned out this way, because I don't think there's anything that we could have saw in 8 games to say, okay, now next year, Brock Purdy's going to come back from UCL injury and lead the NFL in all these statistics, have a historic run, and be the MVP. I don't think if anyone predicted that, I think it was purely luck and homerism that it ended up becoming true. Because this is really just unprecedented, just a crazy, crazy story. And Brock Purdy has turned all the doubters, myself included, last year. I was really hesitant. It wasn't as much Brock Purdy as it is just this 49ers organization has thrown me so many duds at quarterback over the years. I'm like, is this guy really answer? He had 8 good games. I really need to see more. He wasn't throwing deep a lot last year. This year, he's just killing it in every aspect. So it's amazing to see, and I think Brock Purdy deserves the MVP if everything continues at this trajectory. That's how I'm voting. But I wanted to ask you guys, I feel like this. I've been saying this for, a few days. It always felt like the 49ers could win the Super Bowl with this roster, even early on in the season. To me now, and I don't consider myself a homer, I really think when I'm analyzing the situation that this 49ers team should win a Lombardi. I think it's going to happen. Outside of injury or Kyle Shanahan loses his mind in the playoffs, it's going to happen. I really believe that this is the year. And a big reason is because of Brock Purdy. Like, we haven't had a quarterback that's elevating the offense since Cap, and that was very short-lived. So I wanted to get your take, man. You guys think the Niners are going to win a Super Bowl this year?
I mean, I do. I don't. Again, I don't think that there is. I will say this game on Monday night. It's the Eagles game was huge for 49ers and 49ers fans, just because of the way that the season ended last year, and it was huge for the NFL because the Eagles at the time were 10-1. It is what it is. I think it's pretty evident now that Eagles record is a little bit inflated from the actual performance of the team. When you look at point differential and things like that Eagles team very much, to me, is more 2022 Vikings than than 2022 Eagles, if we're being perfectly honest, in terms of, just playing really close games, not necessarily dominating opponents, things like that, and just winning sometimes with luck, sometimes with skill. It is what it is. They still have 10 wins. Like, you got to give them the credit. Really, this Ravens team is the only other team, I think, in the NFL right now that could lay claim to the mantle of best team in the NFL. And so this game is quite literally the best game of the season against the two best teams in the NFL. And it's just really exciting. And so, obviously we're going to know more after Monday night, but the 49ers and Ravens are both going in relatively healthy. The Ravens are missing their home run hitter, like you said, the Keaton Mitchell. I thought for sure Keaton Mitchell was going to be a 49er in the draft. I was surprised that he wasn't, but they are down there, like you said, their home run hitter, but for the most part, they're healthy on both sides of the ball, as are the 49ers. And it really is line them up and see who is going to lay claim to, I am the best team. And I just do think it's the 49ers. I don't think this Ravens squad has really faced an offense like the 49ers, or at least the way that the 49ers are playing right now. The only offense they've really faced similar to that was 2 weeks ago when they almost lost at home to the Rams. The Rams took them to overtime. The Rams don't have nearly the defense that the 49ers do. And the 49ers offense is still better than the Rams. And so, with the Rams giving them all that they could handle at home, traveling across country on Christmas against a better team, I just think the 49ers are going to come out on top. And then at that point, you just have to say, like, who is going to stop this team? And I can't think of anybody who can outside of the 49ers or mother injury, if that's what you want to call her.
Yeah. Al, what do you think, bud?
This team has a very 1994 feel to it to me, and not in the sense the 94 team was trying to get over the Dallas hump, right? They had to beat the Cowboys, and they were all in that season. This team feels that way to me, but for different reasons. There's not a team they're trying to get over. They weren't trying to get over the Eagles. They just lost to the Eagles. There was no team that had been a thorn in their side. They were just trying to get over the hump of getting over the hump, of finishing the job. So they seem like they were all in on it this year. George Kittle even said in the offseason, like, listen, we understand, like, with this core, we don't have that long left. There's a couple years here, maybe with everybody, with Williams, with McCaffrey, with Kittle, with Ayuk, with Bosa, with Warner, with all these guys together. So they understand the assignment. They understand that they have to get it done. Now, I think the question mark was the quarterback, because like you said, Ryan, yeah, he had a great 8 games, but we've seen it before. And he's only 23. It's only his second year. And are there going to be growing pains? Is it going to be something that's going to hold them back? And it hasn't. And Brock's already playoff tested. We've seen him do well. So yeah, I think this is the year that they have to do it. They feel like they have to do it this year. They'll probably be right there again next year too, but they feel like we have to get it done this year. And you could tell on the team, like they understand their assignment. And I agree with Brian. The only thing that can really stop them is the team themselves, or God forbid somebody gets hurt. I don't even want to think about that. Their biggest test might be the team they're playing on Christmas. Really feel like the Ravens can be that good. Now, they lost Mitchell at running back, which is a huge blow for them, because to have a running back like that who has that speed and can hit the home runs with Lamar totally changed them, I thought. And then Andrews is out, and likely he's played well, but he's not Mark Andrews. So the defense is really good. I'm interested to see how the Niners, because the Niners have been blowing the doors off everybody. Can they do that against this Ravens defense, which can get after the quarterback, which has really good linebackers, which has Kyle Hamilton back there, prowling around. So it'll be a big test, but I think, yeah, the NFC, unless they just have the most off game in the world or somebody gets hurt, there's not a team I don't think that can beat them in the NFC. In the AFC, Ravens, I mean, you can't count out Mahomes, I guess, even though that team has not looked good. Can the Bills get hot? Maybe. Who am I missing? I'm missing somebody. Oh, Dolphins. But, Dolphins are kind of as good as they are. I don't know. They haven't really beat anybody, right? They haven't really beat a good team yet. So
they haven't beaten a team over 500.
Yeah. So they're not a team that I'm going to go in and say, like, oh man, I'm really scared of them, especially because I think the Niners would light up their defense. So yeah, man, it's like, if they don't win it this year, it's going to be tough to stomach.
Yeah, because I feel like the 49ers have already proven that they're the best team in the NFC, maybe outside of the Lions, but I don't really they haven't really beat a lot of great teams either outside of the Chiefs, the Lions. So, I mean, that's the one team that is really having a good year that the 49ers haven't played. And I do think people are sleeping a little bit on the Rams right now. I'm not saying the Rams are world beaters, but they took the Ravens into overtime. They've been playing, putting up a lot of points lately. We still got to play them this year too. So that's one game to look for. I think a lot of 49er fans overlook them because of our success against them over the years in the regular season. But they're a good team. Not saying that we're going to lose. But overall, I think the 49ers have pretty much shown everybody that the best team in the NFC, if not the NFL, and the AFC is down overall, like you said. So it seems like this is the year. Before we dive in a little deeper into this Ravens game, I do want to get your guys' opinion on what happens if I love these hypotheticals. Hopefully you'll partake in with me. People are like, don't do hypotheticals. I'm like, that's like half of what I do. It's fun. So, but yeah, so if the 49ers win the Super Bowl this year with Brock Purdy, what does that mean for them with a 23-year-old quarterback going forward? They'll still have one more year, cheap, affordable, free quarterback, basically. Then they'll have to re-sign him. But if Brock Purdy continues to play the way he's playing and they win a Super Bowl, what does that mean for this 49ers organization long term?
Well, I think long term, this isn't going to continue. Like once you get a quarterback and you have to play a quarterback, you can't have this. You can't have this kind of team. But it's a good problem to have. If Purdy looks the way that he looks, you have a guy who's probably going to be a quarterback for the next 10 to 15 years. So that's a good thing. And if he's with Kyle, and if Kyle wins the Super Bowl, he's buying himself at least 5 years, right? I mean, he's not going anywhere. So they're such a good match that I think they're going to be okay. And you've seen this Niners team. There's been some misses. Every team has misses. They've made some huge misses. I mean, Trey Lance was a disaster when you really look at it, but they've done well in other areas where it just doesn't matter. I've never seen a team that can, can I swear on here?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I've never seen a team that can fuck up as much as they have in certain places, and it just doesn't matter. Like, how many other teams can trade multiple first-round picks to number 3 to get a quarterback? And then, it just doesn't matter. We just traded him a year and a half later. Like, seriously, nobody else can get away with that. They've been able to because they find Brock Purdy's, because they find Fred Warner's, because they find George Kittle, because they can get these guys later in the rounds. So you have to feel good about what the Niners have, that they can replace these guys. They may not be able to have an embarrassment of riches. They may not be able to go out and sign a Javon Hargrave in 4 or 5 years, but they still draft and develop well enough and get these stars in here to where I think they're going to be okay. Now, will the Trey Lance drafts hurt them eventually? Only time will tell. Because those 3 years where they didn't have the first round picks or whatever, is that going to come back to bite them? Maybe at tackle, maybe at an edge position, whatever. We'll see. But right now, and I'm like you, Ryan, like I'm not afraid to knock them. I'm a realist. But they've earned the benefit of the doubt with me for what they've done with this roster and how they've been able to get talent in here.
Yeah. I honestly think and again, this is all hypothetical, right? But everything that we've seen from Brock Purdy, the way that he carries himself, the way that teammates talk about him, the just unassuming nature of who he is as a person, the fact that he went to Iowa during the bye week and worked his future wife's family's cornfield or whatever it was that he did. I can't remember. I think that's what it was. Right? All those things. I don't know that there's been a quarterback that has entered the league that reminds me in the way that he carries himself like Tom Brady, right? And what do we know about Brady? Brady often took a significantly smaller contract to help the team build around him, because what was important to Tom Brady was winning Lombardis, not maximizing his earning potential, partially because he ended up being able to do that supplemented outside, right? And all the things that he was doing outside. I'm not saying this as like a homer pie in the sky. I hope this happens. It wouldn't surprise me if they win a Super Bowl with Brock Purdy this year, and after next year, which is the first time that they can talk extension, he gets an extension and he makes a good amount of money. But I don't think he's going to look to be the next highest paid quarterback. And if he is, I don't know. I don't know if the 49ers are willing to give him $50 million a year. I understand what this team has gone through at the quarterback position, and I understand how good this kid is. But when you have Kyle Shanahan, and everybody talks about this system is QB friendly. Brock Purdy has elevated the system, but I don't think that there is. Brock is unique in his processing, his understanding of the offense. That is unique. And I think that's hard to find because that's hard to evaluate. And so maybe you don't want to get rid of that. But I don't feel like extending Brock Purdy is going to hamstring this team because I don't think he would let it. And I don't know if the team would be willing to do it. So that's, I think, the most interesting aspect of all of it is what does it look like? Does it look like Brock Purdy becomes the highest paid quarterback because he's just the next one to negotiate his deal? Or does he become a highly paid quarterback, but not the highest? It's very similar to like, and it hurts my heart because you're wearing the hat. Very similar to what Ohtani did with LA, right? Where he said, look, I'll be the highest paid guy, but I'm going to defer almost all of it so that you guys can still build around me. Right. And so not that the 49ers can do that, but that speaks to Ohtani's ability to, make money outside of what the Dodgers are going to pay him. Right. Because he's making boatloads and endorsements and things like that, which is why he can do it. But it's his desire to compete and win championships. And Brock Purdy strikes me as that same kind of player. Not that that's unique to players. Every player wants to win a championship, but he just seems different. I don't know. I can't even put my finger on it, but yeah, I'm very interested to see if that's the route that he goes.
I guess there's the argument to be made that he's already given them a discount, right? If he continues to play, So I we'll see. I don't know, man. I feel like these guys have agents, and maybe their agents are, let me be that a-hole, and you can be the humble Brock Purdy, but we're gonna get you paid. And I don't know. It would be very hard for the Niners to turn down. Like, let's say Brock Purdy wants to be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. And he's playing like the best quarterback in the NFL, like he has been this year. It'd be so crazy if the 49ers were like, nah, we're good. Like, I can't see that happening. I would fully expect them to work it out in some way.
Yeah, if he wins an MVP and then plays similar next year, they're going to have to pay him a shit ton of money. I mean, they're just going to have to. It's just a game. It just is what it is.
And they will, yeah, I'm sure. Real quick, super chat from GTC says, does Rohan pull sources from Reddit without Rohan does not do that. No. Good question, though. Okay, so our guy Tommy asked a good question about how the 49ers approach this coming game, 49ers versus Ravens. I want to get your guys' take on this. I thought this was a good question. He says, how do we attack their defense, guys? And then he follows up with middle or edge, or just in general, how do the 49ers go after this Ravens defense? It's a good defense.
Yeah, I was just on with Cordell Woodland, who covers the Ravens for 105.7 The Fan in Baltimore, and he said what he's most worried about is the Niners running at the Ravens, and when teams have been able to run on them this year. He felt good about their pass defense with their pass rush and again, Kyle Hamilton back there or whatever, but that was he was concerned about that. And I think so too. I think it's the diversity of the Niners running game that's going to help them. Yeah, you got McCaffrey, but then you have Debo too. Debo and McCaffrey are the only two players in the NFL this season with 5 or more rushing and receiving touchdowns. So it's that sort of thing that you don't know where it's coming from in the design. So I feel like the Niners are going to try to run the ball. And I kind of feel like the Ravens are going to do the same thing, especially if Armstead and or Hargrave aren't there. So it could be that kind of game where you see a lot of ground in this one.
Yeah, I agree. If you watch that Rams-Ravens game, the Rams started the game and scored on their opening drive, and I believe they only threw the ball one time. And it was just a clinic on running the ball, and they kind of got away from it. And I think that was just kind of the nature of the game flow. But I think you can run on Baltimore. And if you can run on a team, that's what Kyle Shanahan is going to look to do. The one thing that I feel like Kyle Shanahan's favorite thing to do is attack shitty linebackers. And the Ravens do not have those. And that's where I think it'll be interesting to see what that looks like, because they've got Patrick Queen and they've got Roquan Smith. And outside of Fred Warner, you could argue that Roquan Smith is probably the best coverage linebacker in the NFL. And so I think the middle of the field might be more close to them than it normally is. And so it'll be interesting to see if they do attack the outside. but I think this is going to be a run heavy game plan for both teams. I think we're going to look up and be like, this first half is over already, because I think it's just going to be, a kind of a grind it out, because I think both teams are going to think to themselves, look, we just want to keep the ball out of that other offense's hands. And so the way we're going to do that is to control the ball, take the air out of it, and, and try and limit the possessions for the other team. So I think that's probably the likely game plan. And then when it comes to throwing, I think they're going to lean more heavily on play action, which they haven't done a lot this season. They haven't done a lot of play action. And so, I think this is an opportunity for them to kind of break that out as a swerve, if you will, to what they've been doing so far this season.
How do you think they attack this Ravens defense?
Yeah, I think they're going to run the ball. I think you're going to see a lot of McCaffrey. I think they're going to get Debo with some carries. I'm interested to see. This is, I don't want to say it's their last real test, because then they're going to lose one of their other games, but this is just such a big game on Christmas. Everybody's going to be watching. It could be a Super Bowl preview. I am really interested to see how they come out against a team like this, because they have been blowing the doors off everyone. Every test they've had, the Jaguars were 6-2. Philly was obviously a test. Dallas was a test, and they've come out and they've kicked the shit out of those teams. So I'm really interested to see how this game goes. If it's close, I think it's going to be, or if the Niners come out and just really put a stamp on it. Not that people don't think they're the best team, everybody does, but really makes a statement today and says, okay, not only are we the best team in the NFC, we just curb stomped probably the best team in the AFC too. Just to see how it happens. But I think it's going to be a lot of CMC, a lot of Debo.
All right, cool. I'm gonna give you guys this question in advance, and then I'm gonna ask you after I ask you for your predictions here. I'm gonna ask you for your predictions here in a second, but I try to end my shows with a positive vibe, so I'm gonna depend on you guys because I don't have anything prepared. So my question my question for you guys at the end of this, after I get your predictions here, is what's the best advice somebody has given you? So that's my question for you. So you can think on that one while you answer this question. Bryant, what's your prediction for this game? How do you see it playing out? If you want to give us a score, even better.
I do think that the 49ers pull out the victory. They're playing at home. It is Christmas. Baltimore has to travel. Like I said, the only time they've played an offense similar to this 49ers offense, the Rams took them to overtime, and the 49ers are really a tier above the Rams, both on offense and especially on defense. And so I do think that the 49ers win this game. I don't think that they get to 30, just because this is the best defense that the 49ers have faced since Cleveland. And obviously we know what happened in Cleveland. Granted, Debo went out after the first drive. Trent was playing hurt. It was raining, all those things. But regardless, they still only put up 17. I think they're going to put up more, but I'm going to say that the 49ers end up pulling this one out. I'm going to say they win by a touchdown, 27-20.
Nice. What about you, sir?
I said 27-23 earlier on another show, so I'm gonna say the same thing. I'm gonna stick to that. I don't think the Niners will at 30. I think it's gonna be a close game. Ravens should be able to put up points too. So I feel like the game is going to be in the 20s. It'll be a close game. And then how do you pick against the Niners at all right now? I just don't think you can. So
yeah,
that's where I think they're going to pull it out.
Especially at home. I have them 27-24, so all of us are pretty close. That's my prediction. 49ers going to win it in the end. Maybe come down to a little Jake Moody action. We'll see. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. GTC says, if Brock dumps his girlfriend and is seen in the nightclubs partying, I'm not resigning him. Keep him in church and Costco Wrangler jeans. Pay him. Right on GTC.
Hey, man, it's not his girlfriend. That's his fiance.
Right. Don't dump your fiance. Stay with the Costco Wrangler jeans.
Brock is farming and shopping at Kohl's, man.
Kohl's cash, baby.
He's not going to that club.
I love that he's like killing everybody right now, and he looks just like zero swag at all. I think that makes it even better to me.
Yeah, no swag, but he's the most confident dude in the world. I love it. it. You know,
did you guys?
He doesn't care. He's just
and he's super calm. Like, that's what I like about him. In the pocket, hella poised and just relaxed.
Yeah. Did you see the video of him before the Arizona game, right? So that was his homecoming. So he had a shitload of family on the sideline, and there's a video floating around on Twitter, and you see him go up to them, right? Hugs, whatever. And then they pose for a picture and he's smiling, right? and then you could see, you don't see the photographer, but you know the photographer's done. And the minute the photographer's done, Brock turns around, says bye, has a smile on his face, turns back around, and just gone. Just ice.
Focus.
Just
yeah.
Boom. And I was like, that's who he is, man. That's who he is. You know who he is? It's Kyle Shanahan. He's Kirk Cousins 2.0, right? He has more swag than Kirk Cousins, but still not nearly enough for how good he is. So kudos to Brock.
All right, guys, fellas, what's the best advice somebody has ever given you? And you guys can pick who goes first here.
Man, I was gonna make Brian go first because I don't know if I ever. What's that thing Marshawn Lynch said about chicken? Take care of your chicken and your mentals.
Take care of y'all mentals. Take care of y'all chicken.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's the best advice I ever had. Take care of your chicken. Take care of your mentals, and you'll be fine.
That's good advice. Yeah, Marshawn Lynch is a well-known philosopher, and it's great advice. Yeah, Brian, you got another one?
I think for me, I had a friend who told me that essentially, and I can't remember, it was the thought behind it, not necessarily the words, but that your career should enable you to do what you want with your family, not take away from your family.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's good advice.
Yeah. No one ever gave me that advice, but I determined that for myself about 2009, and I built my career around that to be able to work from home, work around my family. So that's great advice. Best advice anyone ever gave me is my mother. It's very simple advice, but it's the best advice I ever got was just do the right things every day. Don't worry about tomorrow or yesterday. Focus on the day, do the right things every day, and everything will work out. That simple, basic advice my mom gave me is the best advice I ever had. So I want to share that with you guys. And then, fellas, one more time, it's 49ers Web Zone. The name of the podcast. No Huddle Podcast. No Huddle Podcast. So guys, make sure you guys go subscribe to that podcast. Brian, Al, I can't thank you guys enough for coming on the show. Hopefully we can do this again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you got to come on our show too, Ryan, at some point.
Oh, I love it. I would absolutely love it. You guys hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. I'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow, I got Grant Cohn is going to be my guest, and then I think I have a Ravens insider coming on also. So make sure you tune in tomorrow 9 a.m. Appreciate you guys. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Al.
Later.
Thanks, Brian.